Thanks, John. All right, so the topic for today that we decided to tackle was developer tools. So we thought, rarely do we kind of do an exchange of, I feel like we all are like our own small islands and we all use the tools that work for us. And at least for myself, I rarely talk about tools with other devs besides, the text editor that I use, but things like, what platforms do you use outside of work? What new things are you into? Even with VS Code extensions you've gotten recently, just your general setup in your machine, what new products you're using. So all these things are something that I'm passionate about and I rarely talk to other devs about. So I thought this would be kind of a cool way to share some of our favorite things and some of the things that make our jobs easier and just our lives more enjoyable as developers. So we have a couple of things to go through here, but I'm gonna go ahead and start if that's okay with Kelsey and Chris. And I'll share, so I'm gonna go ahead and share a couple of things. They're all related. I'll go ahead and share my screen. For me today, I'm gonna be a Vercel evangelist. So Vercel, for those of you that are familiar, used to be called Zeit, and they're essentially a Swiss Army knife of developer tools, and they've now started to focus exclusively on the Jam stack, which is kind of a buzzword right now in the front end world. But I'll share my screen and I'll talk a little bit more about them. And exclusively on the Jam stack, which let's see if kind of a all right. Buzzword right now in the front end. Oh, Jacob, I think I can hear some feedback from the recording. You might want to mute yourself. Did you catch that, Jacob?
I think he probably stepped away. That's why he's put his video off. So we'll have to fight through it or wait till he gets back to mute. Who's host? I think he might be host. To me, I can't.
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, I can. It's not too bad, but
yeah.
So, can you all see my screen here? Can you all see the Vercel.com landing page? Okay, cool. So I'm talking about Vercel today because it is, it's not just a product, but it is kind of a family of developer tools that I'm just obsessed with, and I have been for like a little over a year. When I first ran into it, trying to find a tool to help me deploy my old kind of personal website or my old portfolio. It's really evolved into kind of just, as I said, kind of a Swiss Army knife. I think I described this company Zeit or Vercel in one of our internal meetings as the chain smokers, because they just keep dropping bangers over and over. They just have like so many awesome tools and so many awesome products that it's hard to keep track. But I'm going to talk about a few. So I'm going to talk about them in the order that they make sense to me. So the first one is a product called Hyper, which is their Hyper is their terminal. So it is an Electron-based terminal that is built entirely in HTML and CSS. This is my default terminal. Hyper essentially works just like iTerm, which is kind of my other go-to, but it has a super fun a community around it, and it is crazy extensible. So like you can customize almost anything you can imagine since it's built using web technologies. So I'm going to be using Hyper for kind of what I'm going to be talking about Vercel. So the main product is the main product of Vercel is kind of their CLI, which allows you to deploy an app to production kind of instantly without no config. So right now here, I actually brought up my old portfolio into this Vercel demo directory. I'm gonna just do, actually, I think I have it open here. So it was literally just a handful of files here put together. We can just open it to see it real quick. Index. So it is just a, index. It is an HTML, CSS, and JS file, and with Vercel, essentially to deploy, when once you install the CLI, all you need to do is just run Vercel in your directory, and you can just immediately go through a few prompts here, and it'll just get deployed to a live site. So link to existing project, no. So that means I'll create a new project. Just gonna call it personal, which directory? The one that I'm in now. I wanna override the settings. And in just a few seconds here, Vercel will recognize, based on the structure of my files, it'll recognize whether it's a, I can have here a create React app, I can have a Vue project, I can have a Gatsby project. It'll just instantly recognize the project based on the file structure, and it'll get deployed. Here we have a production app already up on the web. I have my own URL, and I can change this. I can change this from the Vercel UI. So pretty cool. When I first kind of bumped into them, this was like revolutionary to me. Like this was, and that wasn't even that long ago. This was like a year and a half ago, and I thought this was just incredible. And I started using it for like all my front end projects. And so super powerful CLI. You can actually do everything from like configuring, like you can bring in your own domains all through the CLI. You can even have some, like you can set up some DNS settings through the CLI. So just tons of stuff. You can like set up your dev environment by just running Vercel dev. It'll kind of recreate it locally as well. So that's kind of the CLI. I'll go into the actual UI. So I'll log in here real quick. And I'll show another cool product that I like, or like another cool piece that I like, which is their templates. So the product that I just created is here now. We could see every push has its own URL, and there's like a bunch of Git integration and stuff. But if I want to create a new project from the UI, I can import a template, and you can see all of the templates that are here. Pretty much every front-end framework you can imagine has a Vercel template that is up to date and super well maintained. I'm going to go with Nextjs here just for the demo, because that's kind of the next product I want to quickly talk about. Vercel also most famous for Nextjs, which I'm sure a lot of us, or a lot of you have heard about, which is kind of their React framework. So I'm going to just create a Git repository here, and it actually creates the Git repository with my GitHub. I can set up all the the build settings, environment variables, all of that stuff I can do from here, and just hit create, and I'll create a GitHub. We'll see the logs here, but I will create a GitHub repo, and it'll be connected to my repo. So every time I push to master, a new build will get built, and it's just all done right away. It's just awesome. So Nextjs, I'll talk a little bit about it just really quickly. It's It has a page-based routing system, kind of like Rails, automatic code splitting. It has static generation and server-side rendering, which you can switch between them kind of in a per page basis. So you can choose which ones. Has pre-rendering. So definitely, if you're looking into kind of React frameworks, Nextjs is a great one. So here we'll go to I just deployed that in my project, and this is my Nextjs template. So I can go and pull the repo if I wanted to. So that's quickly Nextjs. And I'll close it up by talking about their UI, their actual UI library, which is still called ZeitUI, but I'm sure that they'll rebrand this. So there's a community maintained ZeitUI component library, which kind of uses the design system that they use on their website, which I really like. I love kind of the black and white and like a minimalist view. So they have tons of components here, from avatars to like they have their toasts. They even have some utils here for kind of some useful tools. So yeah, I'm just a huge fan of Vercel, and I could talk about it for the rest of the hour, but just wanted to give you guys a quick view of it. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. You guys can ask me some more questions later, but definitely check them out. I'll stop sharing, and we can. I'm not sure if maybe we can. If anybody has any questions about these, we can drop them in the chat, in the Zoom chat, and whoever is presenting can kind of answer those after they're done. So I'll pass it on to Chris. You can talk a little bit more about your stuff, Chris.
Thanks, Nico. And yeah, definite +1 to Nextjs and Vercel is very cool stuff that they're doing. Also would encourage you to check out Netlify. I didn't prepare a demo for Netlify, but Netlify also has some very cool static site generating tools. I actually have a Nextjs site that's deployed to Netlify instead of Vercel, and it works really well and has a lot of the same features and tools. So let me share. That doesn't look good. Here we go. Hold on. All right, let's try this again. Sorry, there was a Zoom update on this laptop that must have messed something up. Nico, why don't you come back to me?
Sounds good, Chris. Yeah, Kelsey, feel free to take it away.
Sure. Let's see. Okay, so first I was going to share LucidChart. It's something that I think I shared in my last talk with React JS Green Bay, but it's just a really powerful diagramming software that you can use in the browser. And it has all these really cool templates that you can use. So if you need to do something like a Gantt chart, an ER diagram, different kinds of flow charts. And what I really like about the ER diagrams, I just created one from a template a little bit earlier today, but you can import and export in order to, like, you can import information about a database that already exists. Like, I think I'll just walk through that really quickly. And so then you get all the information about the tables. And so this is just an example that they provide. And then you can just pull in tables and sort of see like what connections there already are. So I think that's really cool. And then let's see, what else did I have? Another tool I've been using a lot for that I think improves my productivity is CodeSandbox, because I don't know if there's like a paid tier, but I have made so many sandboxes. I have to feel like maybe I'm approaching it if there is, but it's just really handy to, like, if you want to help somebody troubleshoot, or if you want to make some like examples for folks to see, you can use CodeSandbox. So I've been working on some documentation for people who are new to React about the different functionality. And what you can do is you can, it basically works like VS Code, and you can just pull in whatever pieces that you, any dependencies that you need. I really haven't, the only thing where I feel like I ever get a little bit hung up is with testing, but even that works pretty well. And so I just think it's a great tool. I've even had folks like one of my previous React JS talks, somebody reached out to me on Twitter to get some help, and I just said, throw it in a code pen and send it to me, and I'll check it out. So I just think it's a really great tool. Okay. Another tool that I really like but don't get to use as much because I'm not using, the project I'm on right now is not using GitHub, is GitHub Projects. It's kind of, I think it's kind of a newer feature of GitHub within the last couple of years or year or two. And I just think it's really great that you can sort of make like a Kanban board all within GitHub. You can make these cards and convert them into issues, and then they're just fully functional issues. It's really helpful. You can, you know, of course, assign yourself to an issue, and then your face will show up on it. And I just think it's a great way to stay organized and not have to leave GitHub. And it even has things like milestones. I know Nico and I were on a project, internal project, and we used it, and I think it worked pretty well there too.
Do you know, Kelsey, if there has been further development since we used it last, which was maybe like 4 or 5 months ago?
I don't know.
Are there any new things to it?
I'm not sure, and I know there's a lot of automation that you can use that I haven't personally used. So when you create different like columns, you can say, you can set up these like triggers that, you know, that it will move things around for you. And so I just think it's a really cool tool. And the other thing is, like, you can just create generic cards. So these don't have to be GitHub issues. So if you had something like reach out to the client, email so-and-so, and you didn't really feel like it was an appropriate GitHub issue, but you want to keep all of your to-dos together, I really like GitHub Projects for that.
One pain point, Kelsey, that we've seen with GitHub Projects before is that each new issue that gets added to the GitHub issues list doesn't automatically show up in the GitHub project, because you can have more than one project and some people need more fine-grained control. And GitHub is trying to keep it, I guess, more universally applicable. But Jake Hebert on our team found a plugin that he's used successfully with one of our clients that does use GitHub issues currently in a project that he's helping support, which actually is a Gatsby site deployed to Netlify. And it's a plugin that automatically, every new issue that gets added through any UI, whether it's in the project or the GitHub issues UI, does show up in the GitHub project. So I'll dig up the link on that and post that in the chat as well. Kind of helpful.
That's awesome. Yeah, for sure. I'm going to stop sharing the screen because the last thing I have to share is in VS Code. Okay, so let me just grab some JSON so I can demo this for y'all. So this is an extension called Quokka, and it's really helpful if you're trying to figure out if you're trying to write like utility functions. And I guess I'll just show you. It just gives you some really cool like inline consoling. So you can do something like, and then it gives you the answer right here, like what it's going to come out as by doing these comments with a question mark. And so you can do things that are even a little bit more nuanced, like if you're trying to make those do mapping or iterating over objects. This isn't a super complex example, but it's just really helpful, I find, to be able to just have these kind of inline commenting. It really helps with like troubleshooting utilities and things like that. This one is a paid extension for VS Code, but when I need it, I feel like I really need it. And so it's really helpful. Okay. That's me.
That last one is really cool, Kelsey. I wonder how that one works with other extensions that also that also print out kind of next to the, because I use an extension called Git Lens that whichever line I'm on, it shows me, like on the right hand side, it shows me who made the commit and when and what was the commit. And I wonder how do they both work at the same time? I'll definitely check. Does Quokka have a free trial or something like that?
They have a community version. I don't know if they have I don't know what all the features are included on it, but that could be a problem. I typically find that I'm reaching for Quokka with a new file, or I'll like make a little sandbox file and make sure that I'm getting, like, for whatever input I'm putting in, I'm getting the expected output. And then I will move it then into my project. So maybe it won't be as much of a problem, but the other thing about Quokka is it's a bit limited in that you're not going to have dynamic data because it's just a static file. So if you're depending on like a fetch coming back from an API or something like that, it's not going to really work for you in that case. So I think maybe it would be, if you're going to be using it, that might not be a problem if you can use it in a sandbox file to start.
Awesome.
Hey everybody.
Thanks, Kelsey.
We actually have one question from Ben on YouTube. I put it in the chat here on Zoom. He asked, for project management, have you taken a look at Linear? He started using it the past few weeks and said it's nice.
Yeah, that's a great question. I personally downloaded Linear when it went public. It was like 2 weeks ago. And I think it's awesome. I think it looks great. I hope that we use it at some point, or, you know, I couldn't really test it in like a real world scenario. I mean, I kind of played around with it in kind of with the demo project, but I had nobody to share it with, or like no project to really use it with, but it looks really, really great. It seems to kind of condense the important stuff of project management into a few concepts that all just work great together in their app. And it's just delightful to use. Like, it's just so beautifully made. Design is just off the charts. I know it's a full stack TypeScript project. Like 100%, like if you go to their, I think their founder shared kind of their private GitHub breakdown of the code, and it is 100% TypeScript on GitHub, which is kind of cool. So yeah, hopefully we try it in production eventually. Looks like kind of the future of project management software. All right. So, John, you shared the repo project bot.
Yeah, project bot.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? What is project bot?
Yeah, it's just it's a sort of like a plugin or an extension, an app that you can install that allows you to do some additional automation. on GitHub Projects. And so you can authorize this to have access to your repo, and then it can do some different automation rules. So like, for example, we've used it in a relatively limited scope, but with the ability to automatically add a GitHub issue to a project when you create it through the normal issue UI. It can do some other things like moving items after they've been added to a project board, either manually or by previous rules. So like Kelsey mentioned, there's some automation built into GitHub Projects by default, and this extends it a little bit. And you can do different things when pull requests are assigned or merged or closed, reopened, that kind of thing. You can add labels automatically, remove labels, all that kind of good stuff. So it seems to help automate a lot of what you would otherwise need to do manually if you want to, for example, like mark a pull request ready for review or something like that, or if it gets dragged to a certain column. I think you can even automate some additional things that you don't get out of the box from GitHub Projects. So it's a cool add-on that you can obviously look at the code because it's on GitHub, make sure you're comfortable with it, and then authorize it to make some changes to at least your issues. Right. Projects. The other thing I can just mention too, from a project management perspective, that we use to good effect at Headway for any of our greenfield builds when we're working with clients that are bringing a new idea to market is a product called Stories on Board. And it's a user story mapping tool that really helps us get a 10,000-foot view, a big picture view of everything that an app needs to do, and whether that's a mobile app or a web application. We run everything through Stories on Board as kind of the client-facing dashboard of what we're trying to build for them, and even sometimes what we're not trying to build for them. So we couple our user story mapping through Stories on Board with a technique called Moscow analysis. And that's just an acronym that stands for must have, should have, could have, and won't have. And we prioritize those things with colors and with labels, and we really help the client understand how we can carve out releases in Stories on Board. And then we sync those releases into GitHub issues. And then sometimes those further get used in a GitHub project. And so we can kind of separate some of the product role that we have explicitly at Headway now, relatively new pillar for us, product strategy. Those folks, along with our client and with our design team, can help be out front of the project, helping be on the leading edge of it. And they get to work in Stories on Board and with the sort of visualization of what's coming next. And then as we cut a release for our development team to work, we usually do that in a release by release way into GitHub issues. And so we wouldn't like sync the whole board into GitHub issues, but we'll sync it release by release so that we can work those cards. And it has a two-way synchronization. So kind of a nice layer to add on there if you're working with other folks at various levels across a team bringing software to market.
Awesome, thanks, John.
Yeah.
Chris, you made it. You're still with us.
Another shot? Should we see if this works?
Yeah, for sure. You're
right,
the
on
last
machine
one
number
left.
2.
Don't throw away your shot, Chris.
Do we do it? Can you see?
Yeah. It worked.
Okay. It's a long enough flex. So the way that I kind of wanted to approach this was with working remotely and collaborating remotely in mind. So I focused on a couple tools that sort of help with that. And I think one of the things that is kind of difficult sometimes when you're sort of explaining a problem to someone or you're doing a system design collaboratively with like your teammates is being able to just like draw stuff out. I'm sure that Kelsey showed off LucidChart because I saw it in the doc before this, but I'm going to show off Excalidraw. This is built by one of the core maintainers of React, so it's very on brand for the meetup. And it's a very nice drawing tool. Like it's got a bunch of, it just very quickly will give you like a bunch of arrows, and you can do kind of as much or as little as you want with this. Like if you see, there's a bunch of different options. It's getting updated all the time. It's got very active development. It's also collaborative. So I can start a session here and copy this link. And if I find the chat, oh, I want the chat. I can't Zoom right now. This is too much for me. I'm gonna put this in Slack, and if somebody or the panelists can hop in here And if they could jump it in the chat, anybody can come in here, see, and we can have people sort of collaboratively as you're talking, you can sort of build stuff out and work through ideas. Very cool tool. So while everybody comes in and ruins my my Excalidraw instance here, I'll talk over you and then we'll move on to the next one. But these are also like, this is shareable, as you can see, like it's just excalidraw.com. It's all saved locally to your machine. So like as I had something built out for a demo, but it was gone. So I just moved over to the next machine and now it was all cleared. You can also share it as a JSON file. You can download it as an image. But this is like, it takes a little bit of work to get this ready. We got, okay. It takes a little work to sort of get this ready for a presentation. So you guys can keep playing around in here, but I'm going to move over to the next one. This is also a drawing tool. This is called Whimsical. And if I need to present something to a stakeholder, or if I'm talking to like someone on like the business side, or if I'm talking with a designer, like I might switch to something like this just because like it's a little bit more presentable and it's a lot easier to get something in a presentable state. So like Excalidraw would sort of be like rough drafts, or if I'm just building something for myself, because I've built out like entire wireframes with Excalidraw. I do that a lot and it works really well. But if you want to go and present something, sometimes like Whimsical just looks a little bit nicer. Excalidraw is free. Whimsical has a free tier, but there are paid versions too that give you, I think, more, like, I don't know what you'd call this, instances, like more Whimsical instances. These are permanent. They have a URL. They can be private. They can be password protected. There's a whole bunch of features that Whimsical has that Excalidraw doesn't necessarily have. So I sort of think of it as like, when things are still squishy, when the idea is still kind of being formed, I use Excalidraw. And when I want to present something to someone, if I want to get somebody to buy in, I will use Whimsical for that. It's a better presentational tool, but essentially they follow the same flow and they serve the same purpose. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about was Insomnia. So a lot of you are probably familiar with Postman. That seems to be like the very popular REST tool. On the project that I was on, we were using GraphQL before Postman supported it. So, well, it always supports it because it's just an HTTP request, but they didn't really have good tooling around it. So we found this tool called Insomnia, and they had really good GraphQL support when we needed it. So I sort of switched to it, and now I think I prefer this to Postman. It has all of the same tools, but it does take up a little bit less memory than Postman does, and it feels a little bit nicer. I'll show you a couple things that we have here. So this is a GraphQL query. It formats everything for you. You can fetch the schema. This won't work because I have an expired token because I had to switch machines. I didn't have time to get a new token and throw it in, but you can show the documentation for your graph schema, and actually like within Insomnia, you can look through all of your queries and all of your mutations, and you can build out queries through it. It's very helpful. A lot of GraphQL servers have that documentation kind of built in like a playground, but not all of them do. And like the prod ones certainly don't. Like if you're connecting to the GitHub API, like they don't really have, it's a bad example because GitHub does have a great playground, but certain ones might not have a playground. You can just grab the schema and Insomnia will build out like what that schema looks like, what you need to query for. It also handles just basic HTTP requests here. So this is an Elasticsearch query. This is just JSON. We're doing a post to an Elasticsearch server. And we've got another one, which is just a get, and it's returning JSON. I use this pretty often in my work stuff. And it's, like I said, it's very similar to Postman. You can, batch requests into folders. It has environment setups. It has a pretty good plugin ecosystem, so you can build plugins for it. We actually have a plugin that you can set what environment you're hitting, and it'll generate a token for you, so you don't have to manage any of that stuff. I know Postman does the same thing, but if you either are getting kind of tired of dealing with Postman, or you want to try something new, I would definitely recommend taking a look at Insomnia. It does
Chris,
everything. Yeah.
Does this have team workspaces? And are you like limited to one like you are with Postman?
I don't know if it has workspaces. I don't know if you need to like, if it has a paid option or if there's anything that you log into as like Postman does. I know what you're talking about. I'm not sure that they have like a shared repository like Postman does. That's a good question. But they do have pricing, so maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I like using Postman as a team, but we're without a, or I guess at the free tier you have to, or at the free tier you can only be a part of one team. So if I'm on different projects and they create different workspaces, then I have to kind of leave one and join another one. So that would be cool if this one had that.
So they do have collaboration. There is a data sync. So I'd have to do some more research on that. But yeah, they definitely, looks like they do support some type of, you can log into it and do stuff. We've never really needed to go that far with it, but it's good to know that that option exists if that's something that you're interested in. I could definitely see doing that for if you're working with a RESTful API and it's not well documented, putting that in Postman or in Insomnia is usually a pretty good choice. So yeah, good question. Okay, so the last thing that I want to talk about is a VS Code plugin. It's called Git Lens. I found this and I was just really psyched by it because it gives you like very good in-editor view of like what's changed in a file. So if we look at, so I've just pulled down React because this is a React meetup. So I figured why not stay on brand for this one. So this is the index of React DOM. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can read it. Okay.
Let's find a typo. Let's find a typo and make a PR. That's.
We can do that. Yeah, that'll be our first. That'll be our meetup. Get in the repo. So if you hover over, well, there's usually a hover that'll show you what changed on that file. But if we look into Git Lens here. Oh, it doesn't work because I couldn't pull it. Okay, so we'll just talk through it. And there's some examples here. So the reason that it didn't work is because I don't have GitHub configured on this machine because it's a client machine. So I couldn't pull from Git. I had to download the zip file and that didn't bring the Git history with it. But Git Lens is a very cool tool. It gives you line level commit messages. So as you're in a file, there's been a lot of times where you're in a file and you're trying to figure out what happened, what was the reason for this change, or what happened with this line of code. Why is this here? Who did this type of thing? And Git Lens gives you very easy. It's hard to see from this GIF, but you can see as they're hovering over it, gives you line information. And then there's also you can look at the full commit history. And it also has a status bar blame in your VS Code status. Like as you're in a file, it'll say who made the last change. So that's just been helpful for me when debugging stuff or when I'm trying to figure out who did something, and it's usually me. But you can find all of that information just right from your editor. You don't have to go into a separate terminal window and do like git bisect or anything like that. Like I said, this is for VS Code. I know that there are similar tools on the Vim side. I don't know about like WebStorm, IntelliJ, that side of it, Sublime Text. I'm not sure. Like I'm sure that something exists for each one, but this is just for VS Code. So this is very cool. Kind of annoyed that I can't actually show it in VS Code because I can't pull the right repository. But very cool
Chris,
tool. I recommend you check it out.
I can share my screen really quick and show it because I actually have it on this machine. You
Perfect.
can, let me share that and see if that works. Can everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this is kind of how it looks by default. You can see the little comment here. So this is just a personal project. And each line that you're on, you can hover over and see the changes, the commit, when it happened, who did it. So here it says you 2 days ago. If this was a shared project, it would say, you know, I could immediately say that I'm working on a feature and I want to remove this animated view because we don't want to animate this anymore. I would just in case, say like, I want to see, okay, what changes came with this? I can click over here and I can see, okay, so all these things were changed together over here, who changed it. So it's really, really useful. Yeah, I use it all the time. I even have it on my personal machine, so it's awesome.
Yeah, on the Vim side, Fugitive is one of the better Git plugins to check out over there. And there's some, yeah, ability to see the blame in the left-hand pane, just like Nico was showing there, and able to dig into the different commits on a line-by-line basis as well. Not quite as streamlined of a UI, but certainly gets you where you need to go. I have a couple quick things I could share, more remote working tips, if that works for y'all.
Go for it.
Cool. So here I just got 4 tabs loaded up here. Don't really have a good way to demo some of these, but this is one that I used the other day in your face. Never be late to meetings again. It's a modal that takes up your entire screen 1 minute before your meeting starts. And it's pretty helpful because you can view the notes for the meeting and click to like join a Zoom call right from there. So if like me, you go, oh, I have 10 minutes in between one-on-ones or something, right? Let me respond to this email or let me check out this pull request. You're typing or reading and you just lose all sense of time. And you know, what you thought would take 2 minutes takes 30, and you would have been late to your meeting. So this just literally stops everything else from happening and is like, you got to join this. So that's really helpful. Crisp has a free tier. It's otherwise paid. And we've had a few technical hiccups with this where, so what it is it's a sort of app that overrides your audio, your mic input, and your speakers as well, your mic output. So it can do processing on both sides of the equation. We've had a couple of hiccups where like people couldn't be heard anymore, or at least I've had that where my mic wouldn't work anymore. But I actually was on a one-on-one with Patrick on our team the other day, and his the UPS person came and his dog was going crazy, and it was like loud. It almost hurt my ears how loud his dog was. He goes, "Oh, here, 1 second. I'm on the free tier, so I don't have Crisp on all the time anymore. But you still get like 120 minutes or something like that per month." So he just turned it on mid one-on-one, and I mean, the dog barking was absolutely gone, and I could still hear him perfectly. It was really cool. And I asked if he could hear my daughter crying because I think she stubbed her toe or something, I forget. And he goes, "Oh no, it's fixing it on my end as well," because he had Crisp turned on. So we were able to get our one-on-one done with our COVID working from home scenario and still be successful. Muzzle is another tool that we use when we're presenting. It automatically hides any notifications. So you can do that. These are all Mac apps, by the way. Perhaps some of them have Windows or Linux equivalents, but everybody at Headway's on Mac OS. You can option click the upper right-hand corner of your notification bar, and it will turn notifications on and off really quickly for you. But if you forget to do that, anytime you share your screen, will do that for you automatically. And I inspected the DOM and hid their little marketing thing over to the right here. So somewhat, actually quite not safe for work marketing that's relatively effective if you go to their actual website without manipulating the DOM. And then Descript is really cool. I have a podcast called Even Keeled, and I'm a little bit behind on editing because that takes a while. And so we've got like 3 episodes, 1 published and 2 that I need to get out. And I'm using this tool to edit some of the content for those 2 new episodes. And you can edit it by deleting text. It automatically transcribes from the audio and it puts it into separate files of whoever was talking. And then you can just edit the text, deleting the text, and it deletes the audio and it cleans it all right up. So it's pretty crazy, pretty powerful, and you get a transcription for free for like a podcast or whatever you want. You just upload audio to it, and it's really, really good. It's like 99% accurate. It's scary good. So those are the 4 that I had, and I can drop links into the chat for those.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Yeah, those are all great. And I think everybody at Headway, at least, we all use Muzzle. I think we all use, well, I don't know if we all use kind of a different version of the in my face. I don't know if that would work for me, but I think Patrick shared this, or sorry, Matt McGee shared this one with me called what's it called? I forget the name. Meter. Has anybody used that one? Where essentially it's just a one-click. I'll share it on the. I'll share it on the chat here, but it is kind of similar to In Your Face, but it's in your Mac app bar, and it shoots your notification. You click it, and it just opens the Zoom. So it essentially just like gets rid of calendars, everything. If there's something in your calendar, if there's a Zoom link attached to the calendar event, all you have to do is click, and it'll just throw you in the Zoom call. So you no longer have to be chasing links or like opening up your calendar to look at the link to then click on the Zoom little pop-up. It just one click opens the Zoom right away. So it's pretty cool. So I've been using that almost. I use it. I don't look at anything else except for Meter now. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, I'll drop it in there too. All right, we have a few minutes here. Do we have so Jacob? I don't know how the best Twitter handle is, but any questions for Kelsey, Chris, or myself, or John about any of these tools? You can either you can drop them in the chat, or Jacob, I'm not sure. Do we have other options besides that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if any of the folks, you can raise your hand, and then we'll see in the attendees if you want to ask a question live. We can turn on your mic. You can share a question that's a little more in depth, or if there's something you want to share, like a tool that you use that you think would be helpful to share with everyone, you can do that as well. So either you can raise your hand, or just drop something in the Q&A, and we'll go from there.
I'm gonna. That's the, oh, it didn't share as a URL.
Yeah, and Trevor asked earlier, just in case folks aren't seeing in the chat, if we had a CI/CD pipeline that we would recommend, and a couple options got thrown out for good uses. I mentioned Circle CI, which we've had good luck with. I know some of our projects use Jenkins, and then Andrew Stuntz in the chat mentioned GitHub Actions, just sort of the out-of-the-box stuff that you get with GitHub, which better late than never, so to speak. I don't think had a continuous integration or deployment pipeline for a while, but definitely do now. So I haven't had a ton of experience with it, but I know several of our projects, some of our internal ones as well, use it to good effect.
I'm also curious where folks like find new tools to try, because I sometimes see things on Twitter and sometimes through like, going on Product Hunt, but really most of the things that I'm seeing that are interesting are from coworkers in Slack, like them just dropping stuff.
Yeah, mine's just Twitter, and then like newsletters. Sometimes find some good stuff in there.
Yeah. So what accounts on Twitter do you follow to kind of make sure you're finding those things? And then also what newsletters are you following so that folks can follow them themselves? So we can probably link them up, a couple of those things as well. And Nico, did I see you say today that you were gonna, or maybe it was Chris, have a Notion page of all the things that we talked about today we're gonna share with folks afterwards?
Yeah, we have a Notion doc that has a list of links, so we can file that all and send it out. We can include
awesome.
newsletters to follow on there too.
Awesome, cool. But yeah, you can go ahead on the Twitter stuff and the newsletter stuff.
There's this great one I've heard of called the Manifest. I don't know if anyone's subscribed to that one before, but
yeah, that has links in it.
I get most of my stuff from Product Hunt. In fact, Product Hunt is my new tab page on my personal machine. So every time I open a new tab, I see the top things of the day. And there's just so many cool stuff coming out every day. But I think some of the more established things, like there's some startups that don't really make it to Product Hunt, which is surprising. But some people in the tech world, I guess, either they don't know about it or they choose not to launch there. But some of those things I do get from Twitter or from just, I don't even know anymore, just the interwebs, like just osmosis. I don't know where this stuff comes from.
Yeah,
but it finds me.
I'll drop one of the, this is a pretty good React newsletter that that a lot of us are subscribed to that has a lot of pretty good content on it, is React Status. So definitely check that out. I think that may have been, actually, I think I found Excalidraw on Twitter, but there's a lot of good tools that get posted in there that are very React centric, as you would expect. So we'll check that out for sure. And then as far as Twitter, like just the core maintainers of React and then the people that they follow would be a good, if you're interested in React and what's going on with that, that would probably be the best place to start.
We should put together a Twitter list for the different verticals that, like, I'm sure that we, I can help put that together, but that might be something else that we might want to share, because I know like lists are easy to share. We can put together like a JavaScript list. And John, I mean, that can be done for some of the other verticals too. But that's definitely a great resource, at least for me, to kind of stay up to date.
All right, we got one person that wants to ask a question, so I'll allow him to talk.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, hey,
Hey,
Nasir.
Nasir.
Hey guys, so I have a question about testing in React. So I firstly started a couple of weeks back. I'm just doing just on Insomnia. Is there any other like extensions or things that you would guys recommend? And when you're starting a project, how do you start? Do you do TDD design, like test-driven development, or you do like after you write whatever component you're writing?
Yeah, I mean, we can kind of go around. So for testing in React, we mostly use React testing library. I think is what that's our preferred library. So that's developed by Kent C. Dodds, KCD, the one and only. And yeah, I think it started out as just testing library, and then it kind of evolved into a bunch of different testing libraries, and super intuitive. And it's kind of the cutting edge in terms of testing in React. Super easy to use too. So definitely check that out. As for do we do test-driven development? I personally don't. I think personally I'm more of a idea-driven person. So I just start with an idea and things kind of revolve around that. So I like to break things first and then fix them. But as an organization, it really depends on kind of what the client that we're working on. Kind of we try to be a chameleon in certain regards, and we also bring our own suggestions when we deem it appropriate. But I don't think that TDD is something that we would really bring up to a client that is using React for their front end. I think that like with front end development is sometimes it's TDD is hard to do. It usually requires some experimentation first for how things will look and how things will feel. Yeah, and Jacob just dropped a link in the chat. We actually had a React.js meetup about React testing, and there was a lot of React testing library in that talk this year, so you can go check that out. But does anybody else have any thoughts on TDD in the front end?
I was just going to say, related to React testing library, if you're new to it, it's really, I'm not sure if it's available for free if you need a subscription, but Egghead.io has a 1-hour video of Kent C. Dodds being interviewed about React testing library, and hearing him, and he also is live coding during this interview, and hearing him explain his thinking behind it and how it's designed and how it's intended to be used is really helpful. There's a lot of, it's just jam-packed with really great information, and seeing the person who designed it use it, you kind of pick up little things here and there. And so I think that's a great place to go if you can access it.
All right, thanks, guys.
Awesome, thanks, Nasir. All right, so Jacob, yeah, we can put together some, we can put together that Notion document with all of these resources that we've been dropping here in the comments, just to make it a little bit easier for everybody to dive in later. And we'll throw in a few Easter eggs in there too, a few surprises that whatever we forgot to mention here. So definitely a lot of cool stuff. I was excited to hear from Kelsey and Chris about some of these things. So thanks y'all for sharing. And yeah, I hope that this was informative for everybody. So with that, I'll leave it to Jacob to play us out.
All right, thanks, Nico. Yeah, I think, so this has obviously been recorded. So if you want to go back into any of the discussions, you'll be able to, it'll be up on our YouTube channel tomorrow, pretty much tomorrow. And we'll also have an event recap page up as well. So we'll have the video and all the notes actually. So we won't even need, we'll use the Notion page internally. We'll be able to share all the notes on a landing page that has like the video and everything there. So it'll be really great to have that. As of today, we don't have anything planned yet for next month, but we're planning it, and we're trying to get ahead on all the events coming up. Same thing with Wisconsin UX, which is another meetup that we do every month, which is focused on user experience and product design. So yeah, but for now, we're taking a month at a time until we get a little bit ahead. But thanks everyone for attending. Remember to subscribe to our channel on YouTube. So it's just Headway.io. You can find us there. And I look forward to staying in touch. We'll be sending out emails to everybody that attended. Otherwise, if you came through meetup.com, we'll put it in the message boards, a link to all the notes and everything like that in the recording. So thanks again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Awesome.
Thanks
Thanks,
everyone.
Jacob.
Everybody.
All right.